Ted Bundy is one of the most infamous names in American true crime, not because he looked dangerous, but because he didn't. He was handsome, articulate, and charming. A man who could smile warmly while hiding a darkness that fooled even the people closest to him. This is the story of Ted Bundy's path from a seemingly ordinary young man to one of the most manipulative criminals in American history. Bundy grew up surrounded by secrets. For years, he believed his mother was his sister and his grandparents were his parents. That kind of confusion left deep marks. He wasn't outwardly violent or isolated, but he learned to live behind a mask that let him show the world whatever it wanted to see. By the time he reached college, Bundy had perfected that mask. He presented himself as a driven political science student, volunteering on campaigns, speaking confidently at events, and earning the admiration of influential people. He fell in love with a woman from a wealthy family, a relationship that fueled his hunger for status. But when she ended things, something inside him shifted. Friends noticed he became more focused, almost obsessed with proving himself. He rebuilt his life, excelled in school, and seemed unstoppable. But this sudden transformation came with a darker side hidden beneath the surface. As Bundy dated another woman and worked at a crisis hotline, where co-workers praised him for being patient and compassionate, young women in the Pacific Northwest began to disappear. Witnesses described a polite young man named Ted driving a Volkswagen Beetle. He appeared harmless, sometimes even asking for help. Bundy blended in so well that even his own girlfriend reported him to the police, more than once. But authorities couldn't imagine this clean-cut law student was behind anything sinister. He didn't fit the idea of what danger looked like, and that illusion allowed him to move freely while suspicion constantly faded. In 1975, everything changed. A police officer in Utah spotted Bundy driving late at night, acting suspiciously. Inside his car, investigators found items that raised serious concerns. Soon, various states began comparing notes, connecting Bundy to cases stretching from Washington to Colorado. He was finally arrested. But Ted Bundy had no intention of staying behind bars. His first escape came during a court hearing. Left unshackled in a courthouse library, Bundy opened a window and jumped 2 stories to the ground, vanishing into the mountains before authorities recaptured him a week later. But he wasn't done. Months later, he managed a second escape, this one carefully planned. He lost weight, removed ceiling panels, crawled into a jailer's apartment, changed clothes, and calmly walked out the door. By the time anyone noticed he was gone, Ted Bundy was already hundreds of miles away. He fled to Florida, trying to rebuild a life under a false name. But the pressure of running, the collapse of his old identity, and the growing fear of being caught again changed him. His behavior became increasingly erratic. A stolen car eventually drew police attention. When officers confronted him, Bundy fought desperately. But this time, there was no escape. On the ride to the station, he quietly said, "I wish you had killed me." His trial became one of the first heavily televised courtroom spectacles in American history. Bundy dismissed his lawyers, spoke directly to the cameras, and even cross-examined witnesses himself. He treated the courtroom like a stage, convinced he could charm the world again. But the evidence was overwhelming. The jury convicted him, and Bundy was sentenced to death. On death row, he continued the same manipulative tactics, granting interviews, withholding information, revealing details only when it benefited him. Some called him intelligent. Others said he was delusional. But most understood that Ted Bundy's real power came from the image he created. A man who looked trustworthy. A man who seemed normal. A man who used charm as a weapon. Ted Bundy's story remains a powerful reminder that real danger doesn't always look dangerous. Sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it blends in. And sometimes it hides behind the face of someone the world least suspects.